All right, so now that we're recording the meeting, thanks for coming to the annual meeting of the THS. And I know we have kind of a mixed group of guests here, so I'm just gonna go over a couple of historical things. And the idea is to make this business meeting as short and painless as possible. Is that better? Slightly better, okay. So as I said, I'm going to try and make the business part of this meeting as short and unboring as possible, but it's something that we have to do as a 501c3. So first of all, everyone here should thank Maggie Fusari and Lee Oler for putting this venue, organizing the venue and the silent auction. We did a lot of planning to make this happen, so we can thank them for all of the organizing and the troubleshooting. At every meeting, I think it's important to recognize we are on Indigenous land. Diverse cultures inhabit our little special corner of the earth. And of course, there are tons of herpetological place names. Tumamak Hill, where I work, is known as Chemamagdoag or Horned Lizard Mountain. And the Catalinas are known as Babaddoag or Toad Sitting Mountain because of the west side of Push Peak. Looks like a sitting toad. So for those of you who may not know about THS, our mascot is the Tucson banded gecko. Coleonyx variegatus bogarti is described by a famous herpetologist, Lawrence Klauber, and which, funnily enough, he invented road cruising. I think it's pretty funny that a guy named Klauber invented road cruising, looking for reptiles on roads. But he named it after his friend Charles Bogart. And the type specimen was collected by the railroad near San Javier Mission. So that's why it's called the Tucson banded gecko. Tonight we're going to have our elections, and we're not going to get to that quite yet, but this is your slate of officers who are running. There's no one running against us, as it turns out. And this is the board, the current board of directors. Everyone is on here except John Ginter, who just asked not to have his face shown, so I have to respect that. But we have Vern Veer on the left, top left. Next to him is Lee Oler, who you'll meet in a little bit. Howard Clark then is our editor for the Sonoran Herpetologist. Next to him is Ross Maynard. And then on the bottom is, bottom left is Risha Kota, Anthony Pawlicki, and Karina Hilliard. So this is the part where I introduce Maggie. Maggie is our treasurer, and she has just a couple of things to say about our financial stuff.
Always. I'm into details. That's what I do. It's what I've always done. This is to give you an idea of where we get our money and where our money goes. We get our money from a little bit of bank interest, and I just set up a fairly decent CD this past year. Memberships, sales, donations. So we have sales and we have a silent auction. This is your opportunity to help support us. We spent a lot of money this year. We gave a lot of money away to the Sierra Alacrán expedition. We've given 8 grants out. The Rosen Fund was a special fund that some of you will remember, Phil, that we are archiving his materials and getting them published. And so we're fairly happy that we're spending a lot of money, even though you'll notice we spent more than we took in. But this is the kind of appropriate thing we want to do with our money. We want to support things like this. We still have an assets of about, well, 38,000. 11,000, almost 12,000 was paid out in those 8 grants I told you about. I think Robert's going to tell you what they were in a little bit. We also dispersed the remainder of the Mexican tortoise funds this year. If you don't know what that is, we have been shepherding 2 groups that have been supporting the Bolson tortoise and the thorn scrub tortoise in the area of Alamos. And now all of that money has been paid out. It was never ours per se, it was special fund, but it's been paid out to support projects. And finally, we donated the 4,000 to support the Madrian expedition. Okay, so a few details, because that's what I do. First of all, if anyone hasn't checked in, I wish that you would, so that we have an accurate list of who's here tonight. Secondly, do you see these? Brand new, hot off the press. You need one of these. Okay? And surely you must need some of the things on this table over here. See, that's my job. We need to work on increasing our online merchandise sales and renewing lapsed members on our end of the year donation appeal. Oh yeah, you're going to get that eventually. So what I'm going to ask here, you have any ideas? There's a little sheet of paper at your plate that says, please give us your suggestions. What would you like to see THS do next year? How do you think we can get more done? We do need more help. So think inside and outside the box and see what you can do with us. I hope it'll be quite a bit. And thank you for your support, and thank you for coming this evening.
All right, so yes, we are trying to raise money always, and the silent auction closes at 8:30, and we have the paintings on either side of the tables. These were donated by Roy Averill Murray, who moved to Ecuador, and one of them is a painting by our friend and longtime member Dennis Caldwell. He also designed our logo. When the society was founded in 1988, he won the logo contest. And this really neat, it's like broken powdery glass that one of Cecil Schwalbe's students made for him of a Gila monster. Scott Bailey did that. And there's some signed books. There's a really cool pair of Tarahumara sandals, or Raramuri sandals, made from old tires for the soles. We have Lee Grismer's Baja book, which is really rare book now. Harry Green's Snake book, which is autographed, and some fun tchotchkes and other things. So have a bid. And of course, here's some merchandise, and we don't have the new hats, baseball caps, but we just got those this week. Yeah, it's on the website. And then we have merchandise that supports our Sonora Desert Toad Fund, and we have one of these bucket hats in the auction as well. So yeah, one of the new things is that our Sonoran herpetologist has a photo cover now. And so every 3 months, Howard looks at a list of species covered in that issue. And we have a pool of excellent photographers that I've poached off of Instagram, and some local herpetologists that take great photos. And he says, this month we're looking for a photo of X, Y, or Z. And I think it's first come, first served sort of thing. They're all very great photographers. This is a king snake photographed by Francesca Harris. Yeah, Dennis did the new layout for the cover as well. That's Dennis Caldwell on the bottom. This is just a partial list of all of the outreach events that we've done this year, and we'll have more. I'll have a more concrete number in the Sonoran Herpetologist, but basically we reach hundreds of people at least, maybe more than 1,000 people, a couple thousand people, because we do large events like the book festival and the reptile show and things like that. But we also do a lot of classroom visits and things like that. If you're interested in learning how to do that or to participate in that, we're always looking for people to take a day or half a day to talk to kids about reptiles and amphibians. And these are some upcoming events that you can participate in as well. So we mentioned the Phil Rosen Fund. When Phil Rosen passed away, he left us with an archive, a digital archive of field data and his publications. And we set up a fund, or a fund was set up to make sure that those things would not disappear into the ether. And incidentally, because of that, Jules Wyman and colleagues published this recent paper on the urban lizards of Tucson and the management of urban habitat in Tucson. So this is now published, and you can download it. If you would like to read it and you can't access it, just let me know, get you a copy. So the Mexican Tortoise Fund, or the Mexico Tortoise Fund, were funds that we held, that are not ours, but we held them for groups of researchers that were studying tortoises in Mexico. And this year we've closed that fund. They've used up all of the money, and this recent amount, this last amount that we dispersed to them for 6,182.55. This is going to the first desert tortoise survey of El Pitayal, which is a coastal thorn scrub organ pipe cactus forest. It's a very, very unique ecosystem that they're working to turn into a state preserve. And this desert tortoise survey will initiate the process and help gain or collect data on the unique value of that ecosystem. It's a really wonderful area. Maybe we could do a field trip to that area. It's yes, Brent. So it's a very southern tip of Sonora on the coast. It's in the municipality between the municipalities of Alamos, Huatabampo, and I think it's Masiaca. I'm not sure, but it straddles 3 different municipios, or counties would be the equivalent. But it's a unique thorn scrub. There's desert tortoises, there's vine snakes. There's a ornithological field station there called Navopatias. It's a really, really neat area. I think we should visit as a society. So, what's that, Tom? Las Bocas. Yeah, that's another famous place. So this is the organization sort of overseeing the administration of all of this is Nature and Culture International. But the money also goes towards establishing cattle exclosures in the Reserva Monte Mojino, which is a tropical deciduous forest. So they're looking to put up more cow barriers. It's where the thorn scrub tortoise exists. It's a really beautiful place, the tropical deciduous forest. And also they're going to develop educational materials for Parque La Colorada, which is a municipal park, nature park. And they see a lot of tortoises there, but on the lower left, there's a picture from La Colorada of an indigo snake that's trying to swallow a baby desert tortoise, which is a kind of an interesting observation. Sad, but interesting. This year, we learned about Amphibian and Reptile Conservancy. They're a wonderful nationwide NGO dedicated to making parkas. And I forget what's the acronym for that?
Priority Amphibian and Reptile Conservation Areas.
Priority Amphibian and Reptile Conservation Areas, which is a great acronym. And so these are our new herp buddies in the region, and they're doing great things, and we look forward to doing more things with them. But this summer we had they hosted the Matthew Rothstein Bio Blitz in Sabino Canyon, and we had a good time. We found a lot of cool stuff, and then we went to another brew pub nearby, and we brought some snakes and stuff. So the Sonoran Desert Toad Fund, I've told you profusely about, but there are some totals, and here are the projects that we funded. Establishing a baseline database for future management of the Sonoran Desert toad. Looking at the effects of temperature changes and the effects of manipulating these toads to collect their secretions or milking them. Carla Montaño this is the second time we've funded her to understand the needs of the Sonoran Desert toad in the state of Sonora. And an interesting proposal is the Sonoran Desert toad still native in Baja California? So this question arose because they found a Sonoran Desert toad on the outskirts of Ensenada, which is not Sonoran Desert toad habitat, but they think was escaped from a psychedelic retreat center or a clinic. But some people think that they were still present until very recently in the Rio Hardy area, in extreme northeastern Baja California. So in any event, Jorge Valdez and Brad Hollingsworth are just going to start looking for this toad and seeing what its context is in Baja. This is one of my favorite photos because here's a cowboy radio tracking horned lizards. And so we gave away some money this year for our general research fund. Game cameras to monitor culvert use by Sonoran Desert tortoises, microhabitat use of by side blotch lizards in Baja, assessment, maintenance, and construction guide for conservation landowners, land managers, and citizen conservationists, an abundant and reproductive phenology of amphibians in the Sierra de Surutato, Sinaloa. Now, that's a really cool one because it's very peripheral to the Sonoran Desert region, but it's an area that is not well explored or studied. So this is in one of the most dangerous areas of Mexico, in the Golden Triangle, where the founder of the Sinaloa cartel was born. It's not a place that anyone can just go and do biological surveys. And so this team from Sinaloa and Mexico City are studying the amphibians in this really special area. And so we're very happy to help them along with this. So, and I look forward to their report, and I hope they give us a talk, which isn't a requirement for receiving these funds. And finally, we gave $4,000 to go on an expedition and find a really interesting horned lizard that we're gonna hear about. And you've already seen these photos, but this is THS sponsored expedition to the Sierra Alacrán, and Dale Turner is going to give it. and I'm gonna briefly introduce Dale, who I first met as a freshman in high school when I was 4 feet tall. I walked in with a big pile of Xeroxed wood engraving prints of herps, and I made a list of what I thought they were, and I demanded that he tell me that he confirmed my identifications. Anyhow, but before we get to Dale's talk, we're gonna have an election. And Lee Oler, who I also knew when I was in 6th grade as my music teacher, and introduced me to the Herp Society. So, Lee, please come up and thank you for running this election.
You're welcome. Thank you for being in the 6th grade order.
Good evening, everybody. It's so great to see all of you here, and I'm gonna be interrupted by Maggie and Robert. I don't know why, but what?
Food is gonna disappear soon. 15 minutes? Oh, it's at 7:30, so.
It's on your list on your table, the schedule of what happens tonight, so I'm not sure about this microphone. It's attacking me. Anyhow, we're having an election. It's not gonna be very exciting, but it's going to be an election. Nevertheless, on your seat on the table, there's a list of the board officer biographies. And I would like you to take a look at that and see who you're voting for or not voting for. And is Patrick here? Anybody know? Patrick isn't here. Yeah, well, I'm sure his wife had a kid, not him, but anyhow. He's not here, but he's a good guy, and since he's the only one running, I think you could probably vote for him. But Robert, you already met. Karen Watson, where's Karen? Oh, she's right here in front of me. She's such a good person. She helped me so much yesterday. You're new to town, right? Yeah, a couple of years, unlike the rest of us that have been here forever. But you can read a little bit about what she does. She has a very exciting life about out in the field doing herb stuff, which is kind of cool. So you can read that very quickly. And then you have Maggie. You met Maggie already. You can also read about what she does. She's a treasurer. She keeps track of the money and talks about it a lot and worries about it. So so far she's doing well. So I would say vote for her too. So on your ballot here, we have 4 people running. And if Robert, Patrick, Karen, and Maggie, and I would say if you have any interest or you have any interest in anybody else running, that's what that second line is for. Just put another name in there. If you're interested in running for any office, please raise your hand now. I don't see any hands, but if you have somebody that you would like to write in, just so we could maybe know who they are, to maybe run next year, please do that. And if you haven't, if not interested in doing that, mark your ballot, please, after you've read the bios. And we'll give you about 5 minutes to take care of all of that business. And then Anna Lily and I will collect the ballots. There's a ballot box over there too. We'll get that out. And then Anna Lily and I are going to count them too. So beware. All right, that's about it. Any questions? Wonderful. Okay, thank you very much. You're a great audience. It looks so good. I hope somebody's taken a photograph of this wonderful room of people.
We're going to get started now with our evening's talk. We're going to hear from Dale Turner. Dale is a wildlife biologist and longtime conservation activist. He recently retired after 2 decades of working for the Nature Conservancy, which included efforts to restore the Colorado River Delta in Mexico. Dale was a co-founder of Sky Island Alliance and has served as president and board member of the Tucson Herp Society. Dale has a master's degree from the University of Arizona and a bachelor's from Rice University. His primary research discipline has been herpetology, but he has conducted or directed a variety of plant and animal research projects and inventories, including studies of saguaros, mesquites, rivers, and cienagas. He's also a pretty nifty guy. So without further ado, I will open this up. Where did it go?
Okay. All right. Thank you, Robert. Thank you all. I will say, contrary to his slide, I do not have a PhD. And I should also say that I am really thrilled that Robert has done so well as president of Tucson Herp Society. I think of him as a child of this society. You know, he grew up with us, so it's fun to see him, you know, making good. So tonight I just want to give a very brief talk. Don't want to interrupt, you know, your drinking and bidding efforts here. But Beto asked me to talk a little bit about this recent trip to Sierra Alacrán. And you know, this thing makes such wonderful noises. Okay, is that better? Okay. Let's see. So, two things here. I did not take all of these photos. I took a few of the photos, the ones that are out of focus and you know, poorly lit. Those would be mine. I'm fortunate to have friends who take good photos, and they're all credited, so you'll see who did them. I should also note that, you know, I call this Sierra Alacrán Revisited because we went on this expedition following the footsteps of a number of other great expeditions. So this started in 1890. A guy named Lumholtz led an expedition through northeastern Sonora, basically looking for, you know, the indigenous people and wild landscapes. Had a different approach to field clothing at the time. You know, the dinner jacket, the tie, and the folded hanky in his pocket, and the rifle. We don't generally do that herping these days. So Lumholtz, among other things on his expedition, collected a weird horned lizard and sent it back. I think it went to the American Museum, and nobody knew quite what it was. In 1897, two more of these animals were collected for a guy named Raymond Ditmarsi, who became the first herpetologist for the New York Zoological Society, which what became the Bronx Zoo. They were collected in 1897. The locality was a short distance over the border of Arizona in Old Mexico, state of Sonora. You know, really specific locality. But you know, it's better than northern Sonora, which was Lumholtz's locality. Those three animals were named by Stejneger in 1906. Stejneger, thank you. As Phrynosoma ditmarsi. And then for 70 years, that was all that we knew of the species. Three dead animals, pickles floating in alcohol jars, that some people question, you know, were these mutant shorthorn lizards or just some aberration? But, you know, for a very long time, it was just this phantom out there. But there were a few people who had this notion that it had, you know, it was like the a holy grail of herpetology, finding that lost lizard. One of those was Dr. Charles Lowe, who came to the University of Arizona in the 1950s, and he and his students started looking for Phrynosoma ditmarsi every time they went into Sonora. Didn't have a lot of success, but they spent a lot of time looking. So, wow, competing with the sports TV. Yeah. So we have several of those students here. One of them, Michael Robinson, was took the initiative to try and recreate the Lumholtz expedition route and see if that might lead to ditmarsi. I believe it didn't, but it was a good idea. Then a guy named Vince Roth, who was managing the Southwest Research Station in Portal, had the idea of looking at the stomach contents of those pickled lizards to see like what they've been eating, and came up with a pretty good list of ants, but also other invertebrates, some plant parts, and even some pebbles. And so he ran those by experts in each taxon, as well as geologists, trying to find out, sort of the intersecting Venn diagram of all those species and rocks and plants. And it came down to a triangle, roughly Naco, Agua Prieta, and Fronteras. So it's northern Sonora, but a little bit tighter area. So based on that, Lowe asked a mining engineer that he had bumped into in the field to keep his eyes open for horned lizards, and the guy brought him some shorthorn lizards, and then one time contacted him, said he had a lizard. Lowe met him at the border. The guy handed him a box. Lowe opened it, said Douglasii, closed the lid. Shorthorn lizard. The next day he was back at the border, and I think Mike may have been with him to go find more of Phrynosoma ditmarsi. They found one. So ultimately, they collected 21 individuals from the area known then as Sierra Manzanal. It's synonymous with Sierra Alacrán. So this was the new, not the type locality. What do you call it? The paratype, lectotype. It's the first locality that is verified with this species, Phrynosoma ditmarsi. And that was 1971. This is 1995. And what we knew of the distribution then, 3 localities. So the red circle is the Sierra Alacrán, Sierra Manzanal. And there's Rancho La Palma, and I can't remember what the third one is. But, we weren't doing all that well. Since then, we've learned a lot. So I should say, why have we not, were we not learning very fast about that? I think it was in part, people were confusing them with shorthorn lizards. When you have adult ditmarsi and Hernandezi, so Douglasii got split, and it's now Hernandezi, they look fairly different. You can tell them apart, at least when they're in hand. You got babies, they're really tough. If you don't know what you're looking for, it's really easy to mistake them. If you do know what you're looking for, you can tell. But this is, ditmarsi on the left and Hernandezi on the right. They're also just really cute. Oh. So now we are up to about 24 localities. And this is largely because of a series of expeditions led by this guy, Dr. Tom Van Devender, to document the biodiversity in the Sky Islands of Sonora. So Tom has been leading trips for what, 15 years now. Groups of biologists from both sides of the border go out in the field for a week and just look for stuff, look for all kinds of stuff. And, you know, we bring it back, it gets cataloged often, you know, for the vertebrates, it's all photographs, plants go into herbaria, and the records Tom has been putting into this amazing online database. If you're not familiar with it, if you're doing anything in Sonora, this is the best resource around for the distribution of plants and animals. And that leads us to the recent expedition to Sierra Alacrán with Tucson Herp Society. So this was in the middle of September, just a couple of months ago. There were about 60 people on this trip, about 20 from THS, random other gringo hangers-on, and some academics and students from Sonora. And we just went out and looked for stuff, and we found some herbs. So it was a 5-day trip, and I count 27 species that we found, which is not bad for a late fall trip. This is small print. I don't expect you to read it all, but I'll show you a few photos. I should also note that we're by my count, there are 4 new species for the municipio. So we got some cool new records, and really some beautiful animals. Not least of which, if I can advance this, hello, Phrynosoma ditmarsi. We found ditmarsi. So it wasn't a given we would find them, because we didn't have, in 1971, Lowe and Company did not have GPS units. They gave some localities relative to a mine out there, and so we went looking. Eventually we found them, and there was much joy in Ditmarsville. Robert got to experience the what is now becoming a tradition of the stack of ditmarsi. We found other things as well, so really nice alligator lizard, cool skink. I just love those blue tails. There was a barking frog out moving in daylight in September. It's like, what are you doing out? But hey, we'll take it. Pure Moraba just happened to upon this thing. Your basic red-spotted toad, looking like a gem, Chip Hedgecock's photo. And leopard frogs, because leopard frogs are cool. It's always fun to find a good population. Found a few snakes. Your president was responsible for catching this. He climbed 20 feet up in that juniper tree behind me and was like shaking the branches on one side, and the snake would go to the other side, and he'd climb over there and shake the branches over there. Eventually it came down, and then Patrick, your vice president, managed to grab the tail, and I got the business end, and we declared victory. And it was a beautiful snake. So lots of people got to spend time, oohing and eyeing and taking pictures of, everybody likes, a red snake with, black and white highlights. And then there were these other, red snakes with black and white highlights. So this is a thorn scrub hook-nosed snake, a really cool tropical thing, just dinky little snake, and just, pretty wild. And another red and black and white snake, a really nice mountain king snake, and another red and black and white snake. You can sense a pattern here. But not all the snakes were red and black. So another Sonoran whip snake, and and then you get into the brown snakes. Lovely black-tail rattlesnake, a nice lyre snake, and a beautiful, awesome, spectacular yaki black-headed snake. I like the little snakes. They're more fun. And then we found turtles. Only one species, not part of the Amaranthaceae, despite what the label may say. But we're open-minded about species. Whatever you want, whatever your pronoun is. And there were plants. Just several people came back with this rock daisy, which was strange looking thing growing up on these cliffs. Turns out it's a very rare species in Sonora, named Peridili van Devenderi, after Tom Van Devender. So fun discovery. And plant people do their brutal things with the plants, and they argue over plants. Good thing herpetologists don't argue over herbs. Oh, and Tom's brother Wayne Van Devender was hard at work sorting teeny tiny snail shells out of soil samples here. These are like broad spectrum biodiversity inventories. I'm glad he's doing that work and not me. And to make this all more fun yet, we had catered meals, hot meals with good Mexican cooks. Life doesn't get much better than that in the field. We had some lovely sunrises and sunsets, and 2 torrential rainstorms, one of which featured a lot of hail. So just to make it an adventure. It's not an adventure if somebody doesn't get wet. And some fun landscapes. So I think that's all I've got. I'll answer any questions you've got, or you can get back to drinking and bidding on the goodies. Question? Robert?
What's your bonus photos? Bonus photos.
Bonus photos. Oh, that's just if somebody wants to know more about ditmarsi, because I can't talk enough about ditmarsi. Okay. By popular request. How do we tell ditmarsi from Hernandez eye? Spot the ditmarsi in this photo. Well, it's the red one. Yeah, so they are different. Look at them from the side. Ditmars has huge jaw. For a little lizard, it's a huge jaw. But that deep jaw allows them, it's part of their dentition, they can crush beetles. They're not restricted to dinky little ants. They can eat damn near anything you put in front of them. So the big jaw, which is also visible in the juveniles. But the easy thing, the belly scales on ditmarsi are keeled. So you can probably see this from the back of the room. That's ditmarsi on the right and Hernandez eye on the left. Hernandez eye has these very smooth, glossy scales. Ditmarsi are keeled. Yeah.
Before you leave this one, look at that ditmarsi, look at the scales on the right behind the neck. They're keeled just like Scalopus, and they're not in Hernandez. You look at those close up and it's just like a scalopus scale,
Talking about these? Yeah,
just below the fold.
yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, all across the belly. It's, you know,
This has regular spines on it like a scalopus.
yeah. So those are the bonus slides. Anything else? All right, then.
All right, thank you, Dale. That was really fun. Before we announce the results of the election, we're all like on the edge of our seats. Does anybody have any announcements or anything to share? Anything before we go on? Okay. Well, then Lee, yes.
I can do it, yeah.
All right.
I'm gonna develop my long. Sometimes you have to follow. The election was unanimous in the board that was on the ballot. There were 30 votes, each ballot was completed. No undercounts or anything like that, so congratulations to you, people. You get to do this for another year. But we'll be looking for new people.
All right, so unless there's anything else, the auction closes at 8:30 and we have cake. And we have cake that has our logo on it, which is pretty fun. Yes, Lee. Yes. Yes, and so thank you for supporting THS. We're one of the best regional herp societies in the United States, and that's not just me saying that. We publish really good stuff, and I can count on one hand. I can count on 3 fingers how many herp societies even come close to what we do. Is publishing scientific material that's cited by professional herpetologists, and we support regional herpetologists in Arizona and Mexico, and that's really important, especially in a time when funding is not not given away very often to herpetologists. So thank you for your support, and if you have any questions, feel free to contact us. We'd love to see you participate in our upcoming events, or if you have any ideas about what we can do as a society, if you want to do more field trips or expeditions or whatever, let us know. But if you do, we